don't know about you guys. If you guys know, like maybe the last time I'm not a big crier personally. Okay, my family will tell you that. But the last time you got either maybe teary-eyed or cried in a movie, do you cry in movies?
Every movie.
Is that right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like,
wow. I was like, that's a different side of you. I didn't know that.
I'm very sensitive.
Yeah, the Marvels. That explains it.
Yeah.
You were a little misty-eyed after we saw the Marvels.
Every time.
That may have been, though, the money you spent on it.
Most of the time.
Right. Yeah. Phillips, do you cry?
I'm not a big crier in movies.
What's it say about us as men?
I don't know. Last one I cried at, and you're going to make fun of me.
Yes. No matter what it is, we're going to make fun of you.
Miracle.
The hockey movie? Just because you played hockey.
Look, you know what? I don't need your attitude.
That's
but
funny.
I'm telling you,
I don't need your attitude. You had that ready.
But his speech in the locker room when they were, going against Russia, no better speech.
Okay, so I go and see our movie today, The Wild Robot, by myself. Okay, I did an early show. It's just me there, and the movie's playing, and I'm finding myself getting like teary-eyed, and I'm like, "What is? Have you ever seen The Grinch?" It's like that moment where his heart, he actually, starts to care about people, and his heart grew 2 sizes, and it's like, I'm leaking. What's going on here?
That's funny. Yeah, you know what? I was misty-eyed in it too for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of like sweet stuff in it.
It's strong at the chords of emotion.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, definitely.
So again,
I usually cry when animals get hurt.
Dude, right? Animals, children, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
And
bad guys, I'm like, get them.
Right, kill them.
Get them.
Totally, right?
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
I see dead people.
Hasta la vista, baby.
You can't handle the truth!
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
All right, so this week's film is The Wild Robot, a touching, heartfelt story, actually based on a book. My oldest son read the book and said it was really good. I have not read it because I don't read. No. Unless it's read to me or it's got pictures. And then we go. So let's get into this movie. There's a lot of different stuff going on in this film. Obviously, it's about a robot that gets stranded on an island and then befriends a bunch of different animals. And it's really, again, just a touching kind of story. One of the central kind of themes of this film goes back to the 1920s, which was when Disney started doing animated films. They would take a lot of animal characters and they would give them human characteristics. Okay. And I think you can point to a lot of, to get maybe a little political, some of the animal rights to that. Because it started to give them humanistic qualities. And that's something that I think is interesting, especially obviously as Christ followers, we know that we're the only ones who have the Imago Dei, right? We're in God's image. And then obviously Genesis 1:28, we're in charge. We're put over to be caretakers of this. They don't have souls. We're the only ones that. So maybe we can talk a little bit about, animals in regards to how our relationship is with them, what our responsibility is with them, because this movie has a lot about that.
That's a great point. And I think, I'm glad you brought it up.
Can we just stop for a second?
That is a great point.
Thank you. Just want to highlight that.
Yeah,
that was one of the things.
Every once in a while.
It was one of the things that I think just kept resonating with me as I was watching it is anytime you watch, whether it's Bambi or, any kind of animated animal thing, you have to have human characteristics to kind of get the storyline moving forward, right? And I think that's one of the things when you peel the layers behind that, there's this evolutionistic framework. Even though they don't talk about evolution, right. The framework for these kinds of worlds to exist is that animals and mankind are no different. They're just biological features, functions, that kind of thing. And you see animals that have characteristics that seem like they love and they care. And I was watching something recently about do dogs really love their owners, right? And so they did
I think I saw this.
Yeah, and they do like a brain map, right? Yes. And where part of the brain lights up. And
whether it was just about the animal wanting food because that's the person who provides, or was it actually that they love? And it was in the same area where humans.
Yeah, right. And so there's this view of like it's just the physical components, the biological features of the animals and man that really there's not much separation, which is, there's not much separation from the ape to the human type of idea. Right. But for believers, we understand that we're made in the image of God, that there is the communicable attributes, the attributes that God communicates or gives to us, that we have a mind, right? There's a distinction between the brain and the mind. We can think, we can reason, we can love, we can show grace, we can show mercy, all because we reflect our Creator. That separates us from the animal kingdom. And I think that's one of the things when you, from a theological standpoint, that you look at this, and the only way that you can really like connect with the animals on the level that we do is because they show the image of God, right. Even though they don't have that from a biblical perspective. You have to write that in. Right. That's different than like maybe I Am Legend. When you were talking about when's the last time you cried, I don't remember the last time I cried, but I do remember that I cried at the dog dying in I Am Legend, right? But that dog didn't have animal or human characteristics. It was just a simple, like, loyal dog type of thing. And you look at these movies, and you definitely see there is a push to kind of show man as simply just a merely elevated biological creature above all the other ones. But you have to have the image-bearing characteristics for this storyline to move forward.
And from a storytelling perspective, you know, in terms of metaphor and all that kind of stuff, it can be a powerful way, especially for young kids, to be able to communicate important moral theming to them because using animals. So it's not like it's a bad thing to necessarily do. You just want to be careful in terms of that.
And I think the big thing with that is if you're not intellectually thinking through these things, if you're not, let's put it in a different way, if you're not viewing movies with a discerning mind, that you might just imbibe these concepts or start to be influenced by these concepts. And so I think a healthy dose of what is biblical truth as you watch these movies, and you can see those metaphors and things like that. But if you go in just, open-minded in a sense, like where you're just trying to learn truths from these movies, you're going to get a warped sense of humanity and the animal kingdom.
Yeah, that's great, Jay. Let's talk about a big kind of theme within this movie is nature and technology, and those two worlds kind of being thrust together. Do you guys have some thoughts in regards to that in this film?
Well, I thought obviously it was pretty intriguing to see Roz. The Roz or Roz?
It's Roz.
It's Roz.
Rosum.
Yeah. 7341.
When you looked up the film on Wikipedia.
Yes. It was spelled Rock, not Roz. But anyways, it was interesting to watch kind of the evolution of a robot.
Okay. Yes.
Develop into the animal kingdom, and see how even the animals they showed that the animals recognized that this wasn't normal, but they were afraid of this beast. But I thought it was interesting at the beginning, kind of talking about what we were just talking about, animals can talk. I actually looked at it a little bit different, to be honest with you, because
differently.
Yeah. Lee, thank you. So
I can hear my wife.
He's so good.
That's my wife, by the way, in the back of my mind.
Natalie,
so if you want to blame anybody.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
But when you look at when the movie first started, he was kind of Roz was getting overwhelmed, and finally just said, "I'm going into learning mode." Sat there and went into learning mode, and then observed all the animals. I almost took that as he became to understand the language of the animals, rather than the animals actually being able to. I mean, they do communicate.
She totally does. I mean, she's sitting there analyzing what they're doing and learning how to communicate with them.
Right.
Right.
Which I think is something that may be very possible with how things are going, right?
Totally.
That's the reality. So I did see that element that I thought was intriguing. There's a lot with the whole technology side of things that I really loved in this film. But on the animalistic side, just understanding how they how he came to understand how the animals operate. I did see that.
Yeah, there's a component of they really try to hit on unifying within this because just naturally. Nature versus technology should be two things that are diametrically opposed to each other. And they wanted to show the coming together of these two and how, again, and the film hints on it a couple times later on in the movie in regards to deforestation, some environmental stuff as well.
Yeah, there's a climate disaster.
Totally. There is. Now,
Golden Gate Bridge is underwater.
Yes. Massive cities are underwater.
Yep.
And now it's not in your face. But it is there.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's like super. It's quick shots. So
Yeah, when I first started watching, I thought, is she on a different planet? Because I didn't know anything about the
same
book
here.
or anything. And then you're like, oh no, she's, this is Earth, and a climate disaster has happened. And, I thought that was a fascinating thing. And you do see like the intricate weaving of technology and nature, even with the beaver creating her a prosthetic, right? And so I think there is that crossover, so to speak, and the whole, hence the title, right? Wild Robot. She becomes wild and free and those kinds of things.
Well, what's interesting too, back to the beaver component that you were talking about, right? Because ultimately, what is it that saves the forest? It's not the technology. It's nature.
Yeah.
Where the beaver then reroutes.
It's the beaver by his instinct, right? His programming to keep chewing, and that's the biggest tree, so he's going to keep chewing it, one nibble at a time until he can, and just at the right moment, it's ready to, fall and save the forest.
Why don't we talk about programming? Because that's a massive component in the film. There's they refer to that a lot, about it's not part of my programming.
Yep.
And
you don't understand anything, you don't feel anything, right? That's Bright Bill to Roz.
Yeah, right. Which is the baby. What is he? What kind of bird is he?
I think it's a goose.
Goose. That's
yeah.
not a goose. That's right. That she raises as her child.
And even like she notes, we must become more than we were programmed to be. Right. And so I think and if you've watched these podcasts long enough, we hit some of the same themes. Right. So you're not going to get away from the same 5 different things that we constantly come to. It's existentialism wrapped in animation, right? It's existence precedes essence. So a thing exists, but it doesn't become until it makes choices to become those things, right? And
has a realization of who and what their purpose is.
Yeah.
And then,
And so you see that, right? It's like the theme of the movie, to me, comes out in its Roz's pursuit of meaning and purpose. And as Roz moves, and we'll talk about it, I think, probably later of this journey, right? As Roz moves through this finding herself and becoming more than what she's programmed to be, that really is the thrust of an existential worldview, is that, you might exist, and you might have certain characteristics, but you are the captain of your ship. You get to choose. You get to become what you want to be through your acts and your choices.
Right. I also, on the Roz side, the tech side of things, you saw something that we're starting to see more and more in our world, right? AI, that kind of stuff. And Roz was a learning robot. That's what it does. And even when they kind of showed the commercials within the film, they're talking about, hey, with these robots, your life will become 40% more efficient, and you can do these things.
You're freed up to do what you want to do.
Yep, exactly. And one of the, even recently, as you saw, Elon release these robots, somebody had asked one of the robots a questions, and it was like, well, try to become more like a human, is what the robot said. That's one of my goals. And I think that's a world that we live in. People, they're hoping to see these things become more human-like, and I think that's what we saw in there.
What do you think about the statement that's made, kindness is not a survival skill? That's kind of a big line that's used multiple times in the film. Obviously, we know that that's counter to, even just go to Galatians, right? And the fruits of the Spirit. And, we that should be something we're known for.
Yeah.
And it is a survival skill.
Yep. Well, that goes to the heart. There's not an explicit mention of evolution, but the framework of evolution is that the survival of the fittest.
Right.
And that is in the animal kingdom, right? And you have, there are so many things that this movie did that I was like, what? And that was one of those things where in that realm, right, that kindness is going to get you killed because it's always you're trying to get food, survival, shelter, those kinds of things. And the twist in the movie is that actually it's Roz's kindness that does provide the survival, right? When the winter storm hits and she goes out and saves them all and brings them in.
And let's talk about that moment too in particular, right? Because that's a massive moment in film.
Yeah.
And I think it's littered with, imagery.
Oh, messianic imagery.
100%, right?
Yep.
Again, the one who's perceived as the monster, nobody wants part of, but she goes out and grabs,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? And brings them in and then brings them together.
Yeah.
and they form basically a unity where you've got a bear who's like, I won't kill you.
Yeah.
I won't-
Like she speaks to their rational part, right? And which, again, it is not in the animal kingdom, but they have to reason through, well, yeah, we'll set aside our nature at this point until we can then get out, and then we resume the survival of the fittest all over again. And yet she transforms the animal kingdom, and really what you see is the messianic theme that continued to pop up in my mind is Isaiah 11, where the Messiah brings peace to the animal kingdom, right? That he functions as a second Adam, right? Where the first Adam was to have a godly dominion over the animal kingdom, the second Adam will actually do that. And the lamb and the lion and the cow and the child will play with the cobra.
Even I loved the light. So she's using a light, very visual, to find these people, and then lead them back.
Yep.
Animals.
Yes, that's right. Animals. Thanks.
Just wanna make sure.
See, there you go.
Look, he's
already
influenced.
I've already been influenced. Sorry,
By the way, that
folks.
was an excellent point I just made.
It's a great point.
Thank you. Thank you. See?
That's right. We kind of think about wrapping this up. And obviously, Jay, you touched on the existential journey from a service bot to a fully autonomous kind of.
And there's, again, if you pay attention to Sartre and his existentialism and, all that nerdy stuff that most people don't care about, right? But I'm telling you, the people that write these stories and the people that make these stories, they're imbibed in all this stuff.
Totally.
So what you see is a journey from this programmed robot who then can make choices, overrides her program, to then be something better, a better version. And yet, sacrificially, she chooses to go back to universal dynamics. And so Sartre says that's kind of like acting in bad faith. That's his whole point, is that you're doing something in contrast to being free and making your choices. She chooses to go back and be the robot again. And yet there's still a glimmer of like she's different, right? She embraces Bright Bill at the end. And like that really is like on full display. If you're looking at, existence precedes essence and acting in bad faith, this movie just lays it out for you in a great story format. And people are eating it up and not realizing like, well, this is behind that type of idea.
Yeah. Let's talk about, real quick, as we just kind of wrap this thing, the good versus evil kind of component. We've talked a lot about what's all of our different topics that we kind of house on. Wild Robot, does it present a clear distinction between good and evil?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is. Okay. So the moment that I went, oh, this is a different movie, is when the possum and her 7 little possum babies. And then she's like, well, you're not the mother of a 7. And then you hear this noise of like a dying
animal.
And she's like, well, 6. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, no big deal. Well, okay. And then later on, you find out that, spoiler alert, the baby possum's alive. Right. But like you get Fink, the fox, who is constantly trying to eat Bright Bill. So there's a moral dilemma that they're presenting because they have to show the humanity of these creatures. That's where the moralism comes in, because again, we're image bearers. But when it conveniently goes over into the animal kingdom, violence is acceptable. Yeah. Oh yeah, here's a dead bird. Oh, the fact that your whole family has been killed. Oops, type of thing. And then it's like, oh, but you wouldn't have survived as a little runt if it wasn't for this robot type of thing. And so there are moral plots for sure, and you resonate with the protecting of this little baby goose, right? And those kinds of things. But then on the flip side, you have a lot of just what we would consider killing, murder, death. But it's the animal kingdom. So it's like having your cake and eating it too. They're human-like, but they can act like animals and then act like humans when it, fancies the story.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Real Profs, a production of the Center for Thinking Biblically. To support this ministry, please visit thinkbiblically.org/donate. To learn more about the Masters University on-campus and online undergraduate and graduate programs, visit masters.edu.